Welcome to Conversations with Laurel, everyone. I am your host, Laurel McHargue, and today I have the author of an absolutely delightful middle grade novel that I'm going to share with you, Diana Harmon Asher. Welcome to Conversations with Laurel.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased to be here.
I'm pleased that you're here too, all the way from New York
Yep.
City. Where?
Um, Slightly north of New York City,
All right. Hey, do you know
West
where
Westchester County.
Do you know
Pardon
where
me?
West? Do you know where West Point is?
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
We're in Westchester, sort of across the river from there, a little
All right. All
commuting
right.
distance from New York City.
All righty. I spent a lot of years there, so I know a little bit about the area. Anyway, we are going to talk today, Diana, about your latest novel, Trouble Finds Evie Lefkowitz, which I just have to tell you, I found to be such a delightful read. And let me just read something on the back cover for those of you who are wondering what it's about. What's more humiliating than your mom dating the assistant principal at your middle school? Evie's about to find out. So that's kind of what it's about, but it's about so much more. And and just in time for back to school, right? Does this come out 1st of September? Is that my
Yeah,
understanding?
1st of September. Yep,
All
yep,
right. I got an advance copy and I
yeah.
was just very, very happy to be taken back to, I would say, even before my middle school years. The angst that youngsters experience when they feel like they might like someone.
hmm
So let me ask you this. Do you remember your first crush?
Ooh, my first crush.
Your first crush? Because we
Um,
have those
yeah,
sometimes.
I guess I remember. Yeah, I'm trying to think my very, I mean, I was kind of behind in elementary school. There was sort of the crowd that was already, sort of pairing up. And so I had sort of silent crushes, but I remember there was this one girl who was in like fifth or sixth grade, and everyone was saying, "Oh, Kath, she's really popular. She's going steady with two guys, with both David and Stephen." And I remember at the time thinking, "Well, that's not going steady means one what?" you know, Sort of navigating that elementary school and middle school dating thing. Even then, I was sort of standing back and watching. I think so. I think I bring some of that as an author. That's sort of my characters are a little bit like Evie is a little bit like that.
Yes, yes. I remember my first crush, 3rd grade, Richard Darcy. If you're out there, oh my gosh, he was the new boy in school. And then there was another new boy in school in 4th grade, Rick Tassari, Rick and Richard. Oh boy, he had the most beautiful handwriting. In 4th grade,
Uh,
he had the most beautiful handwriting, and he's the first boy I kissed. Anyway, yeah, I had
oh,
crushes.
oh.
I definitely had crushes. So right away we see that you have a bully character in here. Okay, she's in school. She's maybe a little bit like you. I don't know. You have a bully character, but you give him this backstory that we as adults can really understand, and you do it beautifully. His character arc is wonderful. Um, what what do you think teachers might be able to do when they identify, because it seems like it doesn't seem like every year, especially in the early years, there are your bullies, right? Do you think teachers have any obligation to maybe intervene and explain a little bit or help that character in some way?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think one of the things that I brought up in this book is that idea of you get labeled so early.
yes,
And Evie is labeled the good kid, the good student,
the
um
cantor's daughter, yeah,
the
yeah,
cantor's daughter, and
yeah,
well behaved, and everything seems sort of easy for her, except that she's lost her father, which is
yeah.
obviously not an easy thing. But yeah, the kids, the Joey and Tommy, who are labeled trouble. I tried to get underneath that and see what else is going on with them. And Evie starts to understand that there's more. there's more behind that. And um, yeah, I just think, I think back to like when I grew up, there were kids who like, ADHD wasn't really a thing when I grew up. And so there were just these kids sort of jumping off the walls and not
Yep,
paying attention. And they were just labeled as, Mitchell,
trouble.
he's bad or
Yeah.
whatever. And now thinking back, it's like that was so unfair. Um, and so each of these kids has stuff going on, and I try to sort of bring them together that they each understand each other in a different way. And yeah, teachers have to be aware of that. I mean, I think they are. I think most teachers are aware that there's a lot going on below the surface, but there's some who don't, and it's not fair.
Yeah, I just remember my fifth grade teacher. Oh my gosh, she could never have done this today. But there was a bully in my grade. He was a really big kid too, right? And he like no one liked him. I never really knew his backstory, but my fifth grade teacher took me and this bully boy horseback riding. She owned a horse and had friends who had. She took us horseback riding one afternoon. So I was both thrilled and scared to be going on this Saturday afternoon ride with my teacher and this bully kid. It ended up being incredible. I mean, that is a memory I will never forget. And he being kind of afraid and together we experienced something for the first time. And
Wow.
I know it changed him. I know it changed me. I looked at him differently after that.
I
Um,
was going to ask, so when you passed each other in the hall after that, was there sort of a
it
different connection? Did you admit it
There,
or?
yes, I mean, we never
Yeah,
said anything about it. I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
you wouldn't
yeah.
have done
That's
that
what I
in
figured.
fifth grade, but it just, I felt completely, like, I didn't feel like he was a bully anymore. I felt like I didn't know his backstory, still don't, but I knew there was something there, and
Yeah.
I knew that ultimately he was just a kid trying to, you know,
Yep. Yep.
navigate fifth grade.
Yeah. Yeah. You just don't know.
Yeah, yeah, you absolutely don't know. So you mentioned before, so the difficult thing that Evie has to deal with is the death of her father, and when the passage where a well-meaning visitor tells her it's time to stop crying, right?
Mhm.
Have you had an experience like that? Because I sure did.
Oh, that was me completely. I mean, Evie is me in that situation. Those were completely my own memories of after my father died. I was a little older. I was 14. Um, but yeah, I just couldn't. I just thought, "No, how can I stop crying? It was a total shock. Um, and I just felt like, no, if I stop and let this admit that this has happened, then I'm going along with it. I think I say, I'm being an accomplice in it. And
Yeah.
it took me a long time to just stop crying. And yeah, there were all of these people saying, eat something and you'll remember him and don't worry, you won't forget. But I was very afraid that I was going to forget that
Yeah.
somehow someone becomes someone you loved becomes just kind of a bunch of stories and this sort of vague figure, like I knew my grandparents. So it was frightening as well as just devastating, So yeah, I completely drew on my own experience for that part of the
Well,
book.
yeah, you took me back to when I was 10 and my Nana died. And I grew up in the Catholic Church. And I remember the priest telling me, I went to the funeral, and of course, went up, there was a viewing, was an open casket, which I I don't
I'm
agree with,
sorry.
but anyway,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
just was not my Nana there. But I remember the priest telling me to stop crying, to be happy because she was in a better place. And I remember feeling hatred toward that priest. I hated him.
Wow.
How could he tell me to be happy that my Nana's dead? Then, of course, I knew
Oh,
I was going straight to hell because, I hated a priest. You,
uh,
you can't win when you're little.
yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
some
that's
similar.
amazing.
Yeah. So you you deal with stereotypes very gently in here, right? I mean, you're not preachy at all, which is great. Why do you want to include that kind of a touchy topic in a middle grade book? Stereotypes.
Stereotypes meaning what? Jewish people, Japanese
Yeah.
people, but
Yeah, because you have several in here. And again,
yeah.
you bring it out in a lovely way, in an easy way. Again, not preachy at all. So
Yeah,
I loved
I
that.
guess. Oh, thank you. I guess with everything that's going on now, I guess I wanted to be slightly optimistic that some of what we take as hatred or anti-Semitism or that some of it is just due to ignorance,
Yeah.
because these kids, they say things they don't realize what they're saying. They don't realize how they're stereotyping, and it's not that they're full of hate. It's that they're not informed, and that
Yeah.
I guess my optimism comes out in that maybe if people are better informed, there won't be the kind of conflict that there is. I mean, I admit that that's probably more optimistic than I should be, but I'm the kind of person who, I check the news just to see if maybe something good has happened, and it
Yeah.
not very
Yeah.
often. Usually, it's the opposite. But so I guess in the same way that Evie doesn't totally understand Tommy and Joey, it's the same kind of thing the other way around.
Yeah.
So and then towards the end of the book, there's a sort of more overt, um, anti-Semitic incident.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the same thing where I wanted to communicate. Just if we talk to each other, if we understand each other a little better, maybe that'll improve things. And especially with young people,
Yeah.
we've already blown it, but maybe the younger people, I'm really
Yeah.
disappointed in us, but maybe younger people can do better.
And again, younger people, this age, again, middle grade, young and younger, we we get our ideas from the people who raise us, and so
Hmm.
that becomes kind of difficult as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you insert education about your Hebrew lessons, and again, that reminded me of my Catholic catechism lessons and having to take a
Yeah.
new confirmation name, and that comes up
Huh.
with a new name there. Your Jewish instruction, your teachings in Hebrew, it seems like in your faith you go way more in depth than what we do in the Catholic Church. Um, it was beautiful, really. It just seems way more involved. I mean, like I know I took Marie for my catechism name, when I went through confirmation. But have I ever used it? No. It doesn't necessarily mean as much as I think Evie, taking a name in her lessons. Tell us a little bit about that. In
Well, that's just in Hebrew school. It's just sort
yeah,
of a tradition because you're learning Hebrew. I mean, I learned Hebrew, sort of conversational Hebrew, even though I grew up in a Reformed temple. Um, we learned sort of conversational Hebrew, which I think is wonderful because then when you get your Torah portion, you're not just sounding things out, you're not just learning the letters, you can kind of pick up some words and you understand it better. Um, but it's sort of traditional that you're called by a Hebrew name. And so it was always kind of funny to me that there were these kids I knew as Pinchas and Moshe and Michael, and because they didn't go to my school, I didn't know their English name, and so they were, I would just know them by their Hebrew name, and so I have Evie sort of wondering like what's their real name. Um, but yeah, I mean, I did grow up as the cantor's daughter, and so I took things fairly seriously, and I wanted to understand what I was doing, and those memories in the sanctuary are, a lot of them are my own memories. And the temple was really important to me. Um, So, they're I think one of the other things I wanted to do with this is there are a lot of, I didn't write it just for a Jewish audience.
Right.
And I
Oh no,
tried
that's
to explain, and that makes me feel really wonderful that you, as a Catholic, can sort of relate to it and your
yes.
background.
Yep.
Um, and I tried to explain, and Evie being just as much an American, she's an American girl. She just is a Jewish American girl. Um, and that was important to me to sort of convey. And again, I'm really glad that it communicated to you. Um, One of the things that's been kind of amazing, my first two books weren't actively Jewish or as Jewish as this one, but they did have, in Sidetrack, there's Grandpa who's kind of spewing Yiddish, and in Upstage there's a bar mitzvah scene. And both books were translated into Japanese, and we're very popular in Japan, and we're
Huh.
part of a national essay contest. I actually got to go to Japan twice for the ceremony that these kids got awards for writing essays, and a couple of them wrote essays about my books.
Oh
And
wow.
that just blew me away that these stories I wrote can communicate to a different culture like that. Um, so that's like the ultimate prize for me as a writer. That
Yeah.
just really, it's just been a wonderful experience.
Well, you did it so well. And again, seamlessly. There was nothing preachy about it. It was
Thank you.
everything was sprinkled in and to give us information and yet not in a way that I felt like I was being taught something. So
Well, I also try to make things as funny as I can, to keep a young reader engaged, that I didn't want it to be, yes, it's about a girl losing her father,
yeah,
but it's also about watching her mother go on dates and things that, it's kind of painful, but it's also kind of funny. And I tried to bring humor in. I
you
always try to bring humor in whenever I can.
you absolutely, I mean, that's a great segue into my next point was going to be your humor was fabulous. And again, I laughed out loud several times. I mean, oh gosh, when she was talking about kale and her
Yeah, I was writing
description of
about, yeah,
that, her comment about, having a pint of frozen mushroom tofu for dessert. I mean, there were just lines in there and things that she would say and observe that just, again, made me laugh out loud. She's quite mature, I think,
mhm,
for her age. She sees things and again, she's just navigating the whole idea of her mother dating again and still grieving her father, and yet recognizing that her mother is still a young woman.
yeah.
And you did that absolutely beautifully. You did
Oh,
everything
thank
beautifully in
you.
there. What can I
Thank
say?
you.
Um, did you feel more mature than your classmates when you were Evie's age in seventh grade?
I
You
think
were kind
so.
of,
I was pretty level-headed. Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, I would sort of look at other kids like, why are they behaving that way? What is their problem? Um, but I mean, I wasn't overly serious. I don't think. But yeah, I sort of, I guess, had an eye for, and maybe losing my father
Yeah.
contributed to that.
Yeah.
There was sort of an understanding that life can bring some bad stuff. And I wanted to be as, sort of prove myself I wanted to accomplish something and do well. And,
Make him
um,
proud.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
you were obviously as proud of your father as Evie is of hers in the story
yeah.
that comes out really, really clearly. And it's yeah, it's touching. So
Oh,
the whole, again, if you look at the cover, you've got a couple kids looking at this praying mantis in a jar. The whole mantis freedom plan
yeah.
ties the whole plot and ultimately the disparate students together. So
Mhm.
where did that idea come from about the mantis freedom
Um,
plan?
well, my kids, I mean, a lot of what I write also, I mean, it comes from my experience, but also being a mother of three boys and watching them grow up. And, I always had my eye on what was going on in their school. And they had a praying mantis project. Um, and then the whole idea of praying mantis mating practices. I remember
Horrifying,
reading about
horrifying.
that. And in the first draft of my book, I started it years ago and then sort of put it away. And I had that scene where they start to understand exactly what goes on,
Yeah,
as the I won't
yeah,
give it away, but
right,
but
right.
and then
It's
I
stunning.
sort of moved on, and the book I didn't really know where it would go. And when I went back to it, I just thought, oh, okay, we've got to go further with this mantis plot.
Yes.
And then it all kind of came together with that, the way to bring the two groups together and learn about each other. Um, and it was fun. It's just kind of funny and fun. And Spencer comes through. That's the other character who's just sort of you know, the picked on kid, and no one
Yeah,
expects much out of him. And then
yeah.
I really liked having everyone sort of become a hero in their own way. I think a lot of times in middle grade books, it's very focused on the main character and their story, and they're going to be the hero of their story. And I kind of like spreading around the heroes, because they each come through in their own way.
It was beautiful, and that the whole build up to that and the scene and what was going to happen, you added an element of suspense to
Yeah,
that,
yeah.
which again was really fun, and I couldn't wait to see how it would end and how the adults would respond
Mhm.
to it all.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah,
Oh,
no,
good.
no, no spoilers, but it's just amazing. You already have two books. This will be your third, coming out the 1st of September.
Hmm.
Yes.
Yep.
What is next for you? Is Evie going to have more troubles? Are you already working on something
I don't
else?
know. I've been fiddling around with the characters from Sidetracked,
Okay.
which is going slowly. It it should be easier than it is, but I'm trying to bring in. The problem with going back to a book is, those characters have already grown to a certain point, and you don't want to repeat what already happened.
Yeah.
But I'm having fun with it, and yeah, I'm not quite sure how that'll come out. This book is Evie is actually being published by a different publisher. My first publisher was Abrams on the first two books,
Okay.
and this is being published by a it's called PJ Publishing,
Hmm.
and they have some wonderful book clubs for Jewish kids. There are a huge number of Jewish families who subscribe to this for their kids, and they get to choose their own book every month. And so I know it will have this wonderful audience of Jewish kids. What I'm trying to do is make sure that it gets out of that group,
Right.
because I didn't, I like you're responding to it. I think plenty of other kids will really enjoy it, and so it'll be available on Amazon, and they're a young publisher, so the distribution is just sort of getting worked out, but it'll be on Amazon, and I
Okay.
really hope lots of other people will be buying it, and teachers and librarians will discover it. So yeah, fingers
I
crossed.
I think it would be a great book to have in any elementary and middle school,
Thank you.
really, because I think, elementary school kids, we're talking up to 5th grade maybe,
Yeah,
they're already dealing with the issues
it's
that you have in
yeah.
this. So
There are
yeah,
a lot of, I mean, middle grade books deal with some really tough issues.
yes, they
And
do.
that's one of the reasons I started writing for this age group. I was, reading a lot of the books that my kids were assigned, and some of them are just deadly. I mean, it's like, why would they enjoy reading if they're reading these horrible stories?
Yeah, yeah,
Um, Now I think there are many more. There are such wonderful middle grade books now.
yeah,
But back when my kids were in that age group, it just sort of, I just felt like I can do better than this. So, or at least I did what I could do.
as a Yale graduate, I
Oh, Oh, you caught that? Yeah.
I caught that. You got the cred. You got the cred to be able to
Yeah,
write well.
thanks. Yeah,
For sure.
it was a good
Diana,
place.
where would you like people to follow you?
Oh, my website is dianaharmonasher.com. I'm
Okay.
on Facebook and Instagram.
Okay.
I don't tweet
Yeah,
or
I don't
X or
either. Yeah,
whatever it
yeah, I
is.
don't
I
either.
I don't, but they can find me. I'm Instagram or Facebook,
All right, I'll
and
have links.
um oh, I don't know. You mean like what exactly is my handle and all of that?
Oh no, I'll have links to your
Yeah,
stuff below
yeah,
where people
yeah.
can
I
find you and get
because
your
I
books.
forget.
Is
Yeah.
is this one on pre-order or well, September
It's
1st is
not yet. It should be within a week or so.
all
They're
right.
working on it. That's the kind of
Uh,
thing that it's a little bit, they're just figuring these things out. This is only I think the third middle grade novel that they've published. So they're kind of getting their gears going.
okay, all
But
right.
it'll be on Amazon, I promise.
Awesome. And so before we started this morning, you talked about um, trouble with finding a publisher, and I wanted to ask if there's anything else you'd like to share with our audience, and maybe you might talk to us about the publishing experience that you've had.
Oh, well, I when I first got,
Specifically, I was going to say specifically, maybe you had some rejections.
yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Um, I started writing when my kids were little, and I didn't want to work in an office anymore. I wanted to be home, and I thought, okay, this is a good opportunity to try writing. And I took a lot of workshops. There's a college near here called Sarah Lawrence,
Yep, I
and
know it
they had
well. Yeah.
a wonderful writing institute. And people loved what I wrote. And I finally got an agent, and we submitted, and I got rejected and rejected and rejected.
Even with an
Probably
agent.
three books worth. Yeah.
All right.
Um, and I think the best advice for people who are going through that is you have to be persistent. You have to just keep writing, but you also have to know when it's time to sort of put one thing aside and move on, which is what I did. And it's hard because you love what you've written and you think that it
Yes.
has merit, but people are saying no. Um, and so I kept putting things aside and I started on Sidetracked. And I had an agent, I had gotten a new agent, and I sent her a draft of Sidetracked, and she said, I can sell this. I said, no, really? Um, and she did. She sold it to Abrams, and I had a wonderful editor. Um, and that was just before I turned 60. So it was a long time of just, I always enjoyed writing and it was worth it just for the writing experience, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to be published. If you work so hard on something, you want people to read it. Um, so and after that I did Upstage and then this next book that I'm really proud of. So and it just sort of fit into PJ's. They loved it from the beginning.
Yeah. I
And
can see
I
why.
went with them because they were just so welcoming to me,
Yeah.
and they've been wonderful. My editor has been wonderful. So it took a long time,
Yeah.
and I could have quit anywhere along the way. And there were times when I just stopped, but it's been worth it, absolutely worth it. To have kids reading what I write, and it's just the best. It's
Do
been
your own do your
incredibly
own
rewarding.
sons do your own sons read your novels?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, my youngest son actually helped a lot with this book.
Yeah.
Adam made a lot of suggestions, and my first book, Sidetracked, was really kind of based on my son Bobby's experience as a kid with ADD, and he started
Oh,
running cross country, and that's sort of where I got the inspiration from. And now he's a father of two, and he runs miles every day, pushing his two sons in a double stroller. Um, and running changed his life kind of like it did with
yeah.
Joseph. So
Yeah.
yeah, and my
That's
middle son is a fifth grade teacher. So yeah, so they're great. I'm really
Will
lucky.
will he bring this into his classroom?
I hope so. He actually teaches math, but yeah, he'll definitely. I'll send it to him.
He must know the language arts teacher. And
I'm sure
so,
he does.
yeah,
I'm
you're
sure he
get your
does.
language arts teacher to use this
Okay.
book because
Okay.
it's really good. All right.
Okay. I'll
So
nag
that's
him.
as a
Thank you.
former language arts teacher myself, I would
Aw, thank
say that
you.
that's a fabulous one for all kids to read
Aw.
across the board. Well, listeners out there, the author, Diana Harmon Asher, the novel, the latest novel, Trouble Finds Evie Lefkowitz, out the 1st of September. Again, just in time for back to school. Some of you are already back to school, but get this one and check out her other two books as well. I will have links below. And friends out there, please like and subscribe to my podcast and share this with everyone you know, everyone with young kids, everyone who has anything to do with young kids, grandparents alike. Um, any other words, Diana, before I let you go and continue with your adventures?
Oh, just thank you so much. This has just been wonderful. You're terrific, and as I said to you before, thank you for reading it so carefully and having your own having you share your experience with me is really a wonderful
Yeah.
feeling. So
You
thank
brought
you.
me back. You brought me back. You touched me
Thank
on many
you.
different levels and brought up memories. So, yeah, this is not
Oh,
just
great.
for middle school kids, it's also for adults. Read this, adults. I
Oh,
loved it.
thank you. Thank you
Thank you,
so much.
Diana. Keep being awesome and enjoy
Ah,
the rest of your summer. All
thank
right.
you. You
Thank you
too.
for visiting. Bye.
Okay. Bye.